So the Russians understand intersectionality. At least they understand how the West interacts with it and is obsessed with it. And this is something that I've seen vaguely known in the West. Like, yeah, the foreigners seem to get that we're obsessed with this. But I thought we'd go through it a little bit, just because it's funny, and also we have a very good example.
I think it's one of those things that if you're outside of it and looking in, it's a lot easier to understand than if it surrounds you at all times. It becomes almost, not to use a woke word, normalized, unfortunately.
I mean, some of the people who know the most about Islam, for example, are critics of Islam because they have to read every book and every hadith, so then they can say with authority, look, I know what I'm talking about.
Exactly, yeah.
And there's some similarities here. Well, it's not just the Shill being the Origins of Intersectionality podcast that me and Carl did a while back, which explains what intersectionality is and why the West is so ideologically poisoned and captured by it. But moving on, because we'll go to the Ruskies. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Twitter is not unknown for this sort of thing. Russia Today, of course, being a Russian government-funded operation, loves to make like little meme videos taking the piss out of the West for believing stupid nonsense. And yeah, okay.
It's easy political points to score for them, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's like, we're not that.
It is our jugular.
And you have sort of similar, I mean, like the West, for example, will make fun of Saudi Arabia for this or that thing that the West considers barbaric, and similarly, you could argue that the Russians are doing the same thing with, oh my god, look at the barbarous West doing this and that. And if you scroll down, so it'll autoplay. We're not going to play the audio, obviously, because it get copyright struck probably. But the message in this video here, in particular, is essentially the Westoids have multiple parents this Christmas. Like, they've got a 3-parent household for the intro. Remember to count all your parents. Something like that.
As in, like, they've got step-parents or just some weird dynamic... Okay.
Nonsense. They also have a snowman they made, and then they say, well, don't remember to not make a snowman, but a snow woman, or even better, a snow person. And they make the snow figure into, like, they take his nose, the carrot, and shove it on his genitals. And then the woman in the polyamorous relationship starts, like, giving it the side-eye and, like, flirting with it. So it's like, okay. There's also no appropriation of reindeer, so they take the reindeer like heads off the kids, the little girls, because that's appropriation. And also Santa is cancelled, etc., etc. And sure, these are meme videos to make to like poke the West, right? No one doesn't understand that, and we'll get back to this in a minute, because the more fundamental point is that this happened recently. Remember this? The prisoner swap.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The Lord of War for the black lesbian basketball player. For what reason? But
I think supplying arms is a human right, so he did nothing wrong.
And smoking weed is a human right. On the same level.
The state should provide it for all people.
Okay, Mr. Libertarian. Anyway, quote from here. This is Victor Bout watching Brittany Greiner as he left, and he said to her, "I wish her luck. It's our tradition to do so." Pretty neutral situation. Seems like a nice guy. Anyway.
Didn't he sell arms to FARC, wasn't it?
Well, he did a lot of things. Alleged, I suppose I should say. But
Sorry, allegedly.
The funniest thing he did, so my understanding is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's from like Tajikistan, but it was part of the Soviet Union at the time, and then became Russian. And one of the things he did is invasion of Afghanistan, and he was like, wouldn't it be nice if someone could carry all your gold out of there? Mr. Taliban, make sure it's safe for the next 20 years of war you're going to have, allegedly. And
how could you convince anyone? Just like, yeah, I'll keep your gold safe.
Well, he could. He did.
On my
allegedly.
Secret island somewhere where I've run away.
Well, you take 10%, you give them back, you've got 10% of their gold reserves. It's a pretty good deal.
Or you don't give it back and you have 100%.
Well, they come and kill you. So
Russia's a big country.
All right. Well, anyway, he did a lot of other things allegedly as well. We'll go to what Bout did when he returned home after being prisoner swapped for a black lesbian who smoked some weed. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, yeah,
that's almost insulting, isn't it? If you spend your life selling arms and you get traded for that, you're just like, oh, come on, I'm worth a bit more than that.
Send me back. At least trade me for a spy.
Yeah, I'd rather stay in prison.
Yeah. Anyway, he got back to Russia and immediately joined the Liberal Democratic Party of Russia, who are supporting Russia, of course. And well, this rustled them feathers. He then went a bit further. And as CNN quote him, he says he wholeheartedly supports Ukraine's war, the war against Ukraine, and would volunteer if he could.
As in, he supports Russia's war against Ukraine, or he supports Ukraine?
He supports Russia. He's
right.
a Russian nationalist in this respect, which, yeah, I kind of think this is really funny, because, not speaking about the conflict, but it's just the fact of, like, the dumbass optics of like, oh no, some black lesbian has been caught with weed in Russia. Did she take it? Yes. Is she guilty? Yes. But all the leftists are upset about this because she's a black lesbian. well, I guess we'll give up the Lord of War then, shall we? And it's like, all right, stay quiet, don't embarrass us any further. This is already embarrassing enough. He just turns back up in Moscow and goes, "Death Ukraine." It's just funny in like the mad lad sense. Like he does not give a crap. Anyway, he says in the interview he denied any connections with the Taliban. Never met them, don't know who they are. Tell you what, he's alleged to have supplied them with arms. When asked if he had a portrait of Vladimir Putin in his prison cell, he said, "Yes, always. Why not? I'm a proud Russian, and I'm proud that our Russian president is Putin." It's just, okay. It's just the zero F's given attitude. That's what I'm laughing about. It's just like, I'm just going to rub Biden's face in it. Anyway, the former Soviet military officer was serving a 25-year prison sentence in the United States on charges conspiring to kill Americans, acquire and export anti-aircraft missiles, and provide material support to a terrorist organization, which is all allegedly totally didn't do it.
The usual everyday crimes, of course.
Yeah, shoplifting, meeting the Taliban and selling them guns. Normal things. The swap, which the US President Joe Biden confirmed on Thursday, did not include another American, however, that the State Department says was wrongfully detained. Paul Willman. Willman was arrested on alleged espionage charges in 2018 and sentenced to 16 years in prison, in a trial that the United States officials have called completely unfair. Well, that's the thing.
So, have they left their spy in the lurch for a weed-smoking basketball player?
Well, that's the thing. So, do we believe that Paul is a spy? If we believe the Russians, then yes, he is a spy. In which case, you traded the Lord of War for a weed-smoking lesbian
Over one of your spies as well.
Yeah, you left one of your spies there. That's awful.
Surely it should have been the spy and the basketball player. Like the basketball player's like a thrown in.
Yeah, there's a free card. Just leave the basketball player. What are you doing smoking weed in Russia? Anyway.
An arms trade is more of an asset than a basketball player.
But also, like,
okay,
if you're like a US spy, imagine you're like, really? You're going to leave me, but you'll take that if he's a spy. Let's assume that. And if you take the American position that he's not a spy, in which case it's just some kid. Well, okay, she was guilty for sure,
mm-hmm.
and you're saying he's not guilty because he's not a spy, but we're going to leave him and take her. Right? Okay. Yeah. Was swapping the Lord of War really worth it? Is the question on the table. And obviously in the West, we've had our conversations about this. Haha, funny Biden man doing dumb. But in Russia, they also took notice and rustled some feathers because they are not politically correct, of course, in the Western sense. So Fox News reporting in that on Russian state television, they just decided to mock the whole thing because they think it's funny too. Funnily enough, they also have a sense of humor. So the Fox News are writing here. They say Russian state television, which is notorious for propaganda, discussed the exchange, mocking the United States for swapping for her instead of Whelan. A program moderator referred to Whelan as a spy, saying Whelan is a hero to the Americans. However, the moderator specified 3 things against Whelan regarding the US winning of his release. Quote, "His first problem is that he is white," said the moderator. "The second problem is that he is a man. And the third problem, he is heterosexual."
They're not wrong, are they?
No, they're not on any count. This is being presented as if it's like, how could she say such a thing? It's like, because she's right, obviously. Like, as we just went through the wargaming there, like, if he is a spy, in which case this is a terrible swap. If he's not a spy, it's a real bloody note to take the person who's actually guilty of weed smoking in Russia, which, again,
it's a dumb crime.
I can't get over like the dumbest things you could do. It's like, let's take some cocaine to Thailand. Come on, Joss, let's go.
Yeah,
it's only an ounce.
Let's hand out chewing gum in Singapore.
It's just like, you're an idiot. I mean, maybe the chewing gum's a bit... How many lashings do you get for chewing gum, actually?
I can't remember, but it's too many. Although I'm becoming
enough.
more and more sympathetic the more chewing gum I see on our streets.
I'm on the banned chewing gum train, honestly. I'm on fully 5 lashings per every year.
It is a bit pointless. I mean, it gives you fresh breath for a while, but it's full of sugar and it makes your teeth sugary.
But it makes you look disgusting while you're chewing it. Especially people who chew with their mouths open.
I agree, lashes for people who chew with their mouths open.
Yeah,
maybe even death.
Not
just joking.
Yet. Anyway, back to the Russians. But seriously, why would you take weed to Russia? What are you, an actual retard? Like, it's unbelievable. But I suppose she wasn't white. She is not a woman, and she's not heterosexual, so do what you want all the time, I guess, to quote Family Guy. The moderator continued. This is not something that can be forgiven today. It's just a catastrophe. Yes, Greiner beats him in every aspect. The moderator goes on to, as Fox News write, falsely claim that American voters were given a choice between Greiner and Wieland in exchange for the Merchant of Death.
Is that how they refer to him as well?
Yeah.
It's like a term of endearment.
God, I wish I could die with that term.
It's,
I want that on my gravestone.
It sounds like he's turning up with like a scythe and a black hood on.
Yeah.
Death himself.
What are you buying? What are you selling? When in fact it was the Biden administration that made the decision. And yeah, of course, okay, that is the case officially. That yeah, the Prime Minister makes a decision in government. Sure, the President makes a decision in government on paper. But we all know how this works. Like, we all know that this is not like the kingdom, where the king can just do what he wants. Like, no, the media in the United States is disgusting and spent their entire time whining about how if you don't bring back our girl, this is misogynoir, which is a term I hate.
It is such a dumb term.
Yeah. The moderator added that it was a victory for Russia as well to get rid of a celebrity in place for, you know.
You don't say, yeah.
But back to the misogynoir, because this is a thing and you can't deny it. And
misogynoir.
Yeah,
who came up with that term?
That's crap. We go to Al Jazeera. There's some column from a professor of African American history at Dumbass University, Maryland. I may have added something there. Anyway, misogynoir in sports, how black women athletes are devalued. The imprisonment of American basketball player Brittany Greiner was one recent example. Her 6'9" frame, 206 centimeters tall, her queerness, her blackness, already stood against her in an anti-black, anti-queer, and misogynistic world. Shut up.
I mean, being black and a basketball player, surely that's to your advantage, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, there's very few Jewish basketball players. There's Ben Shapiro's whined about. You ever seen that?
No.
No, he did a sketch where he was making a point, obviously, that... You know,
okay, so it's tongue-in-cheek. I was going to say.
Yeah, but he was like, why am I not a basketball player? I was like, oh, I don't know, Ben. Anti-Semitism, I suppose. Anyway, but yeah, whining anti-queer, anti-misogynistic, anti-black world. It's like, dude, they don't really have black people in Russia for one. But then to be like, yeah, this is all because of that. Okay. And then an article the other day that we went through, in which someone else, you know, queer feminist scholar argues what? Who cares? Liquid nonsense. I'm not even engaging with that.
Impact of misogynoir.
Yeah, misogynoir. And then also the last one here, the devaluation of black women's lives and labour almost disappeared. Brittany Greiner. Yeah, you couldn't see her anywhere. Not in the media, that's for sure. Wasn't mentioned. It wasn't like the White House traded it for the Merchant of Death, of all things.
I mean, the idea that black women's lives are devalued as well. Like, how do I know the name of Breonna Taylor? I mean, I live in England. Why do I know that person?
But also, just like Brittany over here, she bounces a ball and is a black woman. That is equivalent to a white man who travels around the globe for 20 years selling weapons to every group you could think of, allegedly.
Don't slur him like that. He's clearly a hard-working man.
But that's my point, which is, you know, basketball, very hard work, I know. He's travelling all over the world, doing deals with God knows who. Everyone's seen the Lord of War movie. If you haven't, you should.
I haven't, no.
You really should. That I think took a lot more work. That cocaine isn't going to sell itself. That's all I'm saying. There's one scene where like he goes to this, I think it's in Argentina or Chile, I can't remember, and he just sells them a load of guns, and then they just pay him in coke, and he's like, "What? Well, I want money. Like, give me your pesos. I don't even care. Just money I can exchange." And he's like, "This is worth money," and then he shoots him, and he's like, "No, I get the message. All right, we'll take the money." Anyway, they say in here in all caps. Scholars and founders of Dysphoria Praxis, Dr. Nana Ofwa Yabue, I'm not even trying to fix that, explains how Brittany Griner's story is an example of human rights violations against black migrants during conflict and crisis.
You just broke the law in a different country. I mean, I don't even agree with the law itself, but, I mean, if you go into another country, you respect their laws in the same way if you go to someone else's house, you respect their rules. Yeah, like, if you go into someone else's house and spark up a joint, don't be surprised if they're annoyed at you.
But also, she's a black migrant now.
She's going over there to play a game of basketball. I didn't even pick up on that bit.
It's just like,
a migrant.
She's a refugee. Okay. Look, we all know what really happens, how the West works, and the Russians do too. And that's my point, which is that the West is now so dumb on this issue. They even are geopolitical enemies, as Washington would put it, absolutely on the same side of, yeah, you guys are dumb, and we're going to exploit that to our heart's content. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the premium videos we do. This one on life lessons from It's a Wonderful Life. If you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.